Clearly, the pandemic has affected how everybody is working, and I'm wondering also how the other things that are going on, the Black Lives Matter protests, the election. I'm just wondering how the other things that are going on culturally right now might be impacting what the discussion is about, what to create in the rooms. I mean, before the panel began, we were talking a little bit about, you know, how none of us really want to watch pandemic stories, with few exceptions, because we're living it and we don't want to be watching it. But I'm wondering, are other things being reflected, or is there a different inflection in the conversation about how to treat stories that you're seeing?
I think I'll go because I think I have it the easiest. Like right now, working on Star Trek is like it's so far in the future. All we're doing is like, let's just reflect hope.
We need some hope, so I'm down for
Let's
that.
just give people something. Like we do want to address like social issues within our storytelling, but it also doesn't have to be so direct and so heavy-handed. And I think we're lucky in that. That we get the benefit and the privilege of doing like allegories without actually having to, because I have friends who are on cop shows and like the discussions that are going on in those rooms, I do not envy.
Yeah, that must be very complicated. Anyone else want to chime in on that front? Has anyone else found their subject matter or storylines veering to reflect what's happening?
I feel like it's really affected the way I'm thinking about future development in terms of like wanting to take out a new show, because part of like the process of going into a room or a Zoom room and pitching yourself to network executives is to say like, here's my idea and my story and why I'm the person that needs to write it and why my voice needs to be on television in this way. And I feel like I kind of had to ask myself like the hard questions that I think a lot of people were asking themselves in like effort to be like a better ally and a more active ally of like, is that true? Like, does more of my voice need to be on TV right now? Like, and if it does, like, in what way am I going to make that like worth it and more meaningful than like, you know, because I think the subject matter of my current show is like pretty light and airy, and sort of like serious problems are not super permeating the universe of the Girls in Dollface. And so for me, it's been two-part, more like with my own stuff, thinking like, what is a productive way that you can contribute to a meaningful conversation that should not be ignored right now in your own work, as like knowing that I am not at the center of anything that's going on, but like have a responsibility as someone putting content in the world to be more thoughtful about what that is. And then also, what can I be doing in terms of elevating voices that are not my voice, and like maybe instead of using this whole summer thinking of my next TV idea, like what else can I do? And so I signed up for a program called Connect the Writers that a writer named Joe Firestone started, that pairs working TV writers with aspiring Black writers, and have like a very adorable group of mentees that I've been Zooming with and reading their scripts and stuff like that. So that felt like another like meaningful way to spend time this summer, other than just being like, what other white girl TV show can I come up with today?
Who else would like to take that one? Zoe, you look like you have something you'd like to add.
Yeah, from a development perspective, I feel like it's really impacted my career in two ways. Being on the board of the Writers Guild, we had a meeting right after everything happened with Ahmaud Arbery, and I quite frankly was like, what are we doing for Black people? Mm-hmm. And now the Guild is spending a lot of time and resources to take a clear stance that like we are an anti-racism organization. Like the idea of being non-racist is not enough. Mm-hmm. And putting together these action plans in place, I'm really excited to be launching a mid-level training program, which is a precursor to the showrunner training program.
Oh, great.
And there's now, because of how that program is being launched, there's now mandatory anti-racism training in every stage of the Guild moving forward, which is a huge deal. Like it's something that me and a couple of people on the board have been trying to do since we got elected last year. And that really kind of was the fire to get it going. And there were some really big showrunners who generally are kind of disengaged from the Guild who reached out and were like, hey, I heard you're doing this thing. How can I throw my weight behind this?
Great.
And some showrunners have gone so far as to call, you know, their studio partners and be like, we have this expectation that you're going to meet this standard. So on that side, that's significantly impacted me. I spend a lot of my work day kind of split between the guild and other work.
Mm-hmm.
And then from a development perspective, when everything popped off with Ahmaud Arbery, I was grieving so severely for like 3 days. I called my manager and we canceled all of my meetings indefinitely until I could like pull myself together. Like, I'm the youngest of 6 kids. I have Black older brothers. My father is Black. Like, I have a bunch of cousins. And it was just like, I felt like I was grieving all of them because it just made me so afraid for them. Mm-hmm. And there was an open writing assignment that I wasn't really sure I wanted to take. And the exec who was managing that OWA was so gracious when my manager called and was like, hey, Zoe needs to push. She didn't ask why. She was like, oh, I'm honestly surprised I didn't get this call a few hours ago. I just assumed whenever you're ready, like, we would love to have you come in. And I ended up taking that job that I wasn't sure I was going to take because I was like, these are the types of people I want to work with. Mm-hmm. So like the level of understanding and empathy and humanity really has been shining through.
Yeah, I think that has been one of my realizations, is that who I want to work with is as important as what I want to work on. How about you, Tina? Have you been impacted?
Yeah, you know, on Snowpiercer, we're kind of it's post-apocalyptic and it's classism and so there's a lot of social issues that sort of permeate the first 2 seasons. It's just sort of in the grainwork of the show. But I think sort of outside content-wise, just to echo kind of everyone else, I think there's a lot of overdue conversations that are being brought to the forefront. You know, you can see them within the guild happening. You can see them within the studios, within writers' rooms as well. Conversations of just the different nuances and microaggressions and different ways that racism in this country is systemic to every sort of career, every sort of aspect of being in this country. So I think something that I've seen this summer more so than in the years that I've been working in the industry is just that those conversations are being had and they're also being listened to in a way that I think that they haven't been before. And I think, you know, as people sort of start to develop, as Jordan was saying, or go back into their rooms, people are carrying this conversation in their mind. And I think that is just really important.